Hi, hello learners. In this video, we are going to see one of the most interesting, important personality in the history. Is quote, a leader is a dealer of hope. Yes, it's none other than Napoleon Bonaparte. Let's see the video. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15, 1769, in the city of Ajaccio on the island of Corsica. His father was a Carlo Bonaparte, an important attorney who represented Corsica at the court of French king. He had four brothers and three sisters, including an older brother named Joseph. Coming from the fairly wealthy family, Napoleon was able to attend school and get a good education. He went to a military academy in France and trained to become an officer in the army. When his father died in 1785, Napoleon returned to Corsica to help handle the family affairs. While in Corsica, Napoleon became involved in local revolutionary named Paspalek Pauli. For a while, he helped Pauli in fighting against the French occupation of Corsica. However, he later changed his sides and returned to France. While Napoleon was in Corsica, the French Revolution occurred in Paris, France. The people revolted against the King of France and took control of the country. The royal family and many aristocrats were killed. Upon Napoleon's return, he allied himself with a radical group of the revolutionaries called the Jacobins. He received a position of artillery commander at the siege of Toulon in 1793. The city of Toulon was occupied by the British troops and the British Navy had control over the port. Napoleon came up with a strategy that helped to defeat the British and force them out of the port. His military leadership in the battle was recognized by the leaders of France, and at the young age of 24, he was promoted to the position of a brigadier general. In 1796, Napoleon was given the command of the French army in Italy. When he arrived in Italy, he found the army to be poorly organized and losing to the Austrians. Napoleon, however, was an ambitious man and military general. He used a superior organization in order to move the troops rapidly around the battlefield, so they would also outnumber the enemy. He soon drove the Austrians out of Italy and became a national hero. After leading a military expedition in Egypt, Napoleon returned to Paris in 1799. The political climate in France was changing. The current government called Directory was losing power. Together with his allies, including his brother Lucien, Napoleon formed a new government called the Consulate. Initially, there were to be the three consuls at the head of the government, but Napoleon gave himself the title of First Consul. His powers as a first consul essentially made him a dictator of France. As a dictator of France, Napoleon was able to institute a number of government reforms. One of these reforms was famous Napoleonic Code. This code said the government positions would not be appointed based on one person's birth or religion, but on the other qualifications and ability. This was a big change in the French government. Before the Napoleonic Code, his positions were given aristocrats by the king written to favors. This often led to incompetent people in important positions. Napoleon also helped to improve the French economy by building a new roads and encouraging business. He re-establishing a Catholic Church as official state religion, but at the same time allowed for a freedom of religion to those who were not Catholic. Napoleon also said non-religious schools so anyone could get education. Napoleon power and control continued to grow with his reforms. In 1804, he crowned the first emperor of France. At the coronation, he did not allow the Pope to place a crown on his head, but instead crowned himself. Initially, Napoleon maintained a peace in Europe. However, soon France was at the war with Britain, Austria, and Russia. After losing a naval battle against the British at the Battle of Trafalgar, Napoleon decided to attack Austria. He soundly defeated Austrian and Russian armies at the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805. Over the next several years, Napoleon expanded the French Empire at its greatest extent in 1811. France controlled much of the Europe from the Spain to the borders of Russia. In 1812, Napoleon was made a first major mistake. He decided to invade Russia. Napoleon marched a huge army to Russia. Many of them starved to death along the way. After a fierce battle with the Russian army, Napoleon entered Moscow. However, he found the city deserted. Soon the city was on fire, and many of her supplies were burned. As the winter approached, Napoleon's army ran out of supplies. He had to return to the France. By the time he returned to France, but most of what left us army had died from the weather or starved to death. With much of Napoleon's army decimated from the invasion of Russia, the rest of the Europe now turned on France. Despite winning a few victories, Napoleon had too small an army and soon was forced to exile on the island of Elba in 1814. Napoleon escaped from Elba in 1815. The army quickly backed him and he took over control of Paris for a period called 100 days. The rest of the Europe, however, would not stand for a return of Napoleon. They gathered their armies and met him at Waterloo. Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815, and was once again forced to exile, this time on the island of St. Helena. Napoleon died after 6 years of exile on St. Helena on May 5, 1821. It's likely that he had died from the stomach cancer. He remains moved to the France 1840 and Les Invalides in Paris. I hope you all enjoy this video. See you in the next video. Bye.